Here.
Today, we're going to be looking at some Clark County schools. We've got some from throughout the county, and we want you guys to go ahead and unmute yourself if you have things that you'd like to share or say, because we want you guys to share. This is like with previous programs that we've done. We did a downtown one. It's going to be recorded and we'll share it afterwards. So we would love to get together people's stories, and we'll have this available for the future. We can add more information to photos that we have, which is we were able to do after the last program. We learned a lot. So I want to show you, if you're on your phone, it might be down in the corner of your phone, the video and the mute and unmute, so you can control yourself. If you're on a computer, it should be down in the bottom of the screen. And there's also a chat function, and Casey will be monitoring the chat to see if what pops up, if anybody has anything that they want to add or any information. She's put a little information in the chat there.
So and use the chat to ask questions, or if you have a story but don't feel like talking, go ahead and put it there, and we'll try and keep up with reading those as we go through. So.
And we'll also have let me go to the next slide. If you miss out on sharing anything that you wanted to share, or if you think of anything later, you can email us. This will be on the last slide as well. clarkcountyhistory@gmail.com. You can post it on the event page. You could post it on our Facebook page. You can message our Facebook page. But if you thought of something that you want to share, or you just missed out, we're happy to get that information. It's always good to learn more about our history, and you guys will know a lot of it. And I always say, I'm not a time traveler, and I'm not even from here. So I'm actually from Northeast Ohio, and I am currently up here. In near my hometown, so we are social distancing closer to people now that we know. But I learned what I know from our archives. So a lot of what we share here will be things that we have in our archives, and information that we have from doing research. I learn a lot of what we know from our wonderful volunteers that we have, who share stories, and when they're working on collections, they'll share things, or people online, when we share things on Facebook or in the paper, they can give us more information. That's how we learn more. So we know when donations come in, but we can learn. There's always more that we can learn. So we'll share some pictures, and we're kind of going to do this a little bit of the way that we do on our Facebook page. If any of you are familiar with our Who, What, Where Is It Wednesday, I'll share the slide, and you guys can jump in if you know what it is, and then the following slide is where we'll share some information that we know, but we're hoping to get some of your stories and memories and anything that you have to go with it. So I thought I'd start off with something that is probably out of anybody's living memory as to having gone to school there. But does anyone know what school this is? That we used for the image for the event page. This has anyone been
Olive Branch? Is it Olive Branch?
It's not Olive Branch. Has anyone been to Carillon Park?
Yes.
And walked through the buildings that they have there? This is actually the schoolhouse that's out at Carillon Park. It is. It's called Locust Grove, and it's one of the township schools, the Springfield Township schools. At the time, there was 13, and what we have in our archives, which isn't, it's a map, but it's not as immediately useful as you would like a map to be. But it's got pictures around the outside, like this one here. It's got little cutout pictures of the township schools. Including Locust Grove, and it gives you kind of a general idea as to where they were originally located. So in the 70s, it was taken to Carillon Park, and I don't know if anyone knew of Ursi Miller. He was a longtime educator in Springfield, and he was the principal at Lincoln and Bushnell, and he owned the one-room schoolhouse at the time. And when Carillon Park was looking to expand and do something with education, they wanted a school there. And they found out that he had this school that he was willing to give. And they dismantled it brick by brick. So if you've been to Carillon Park, that is the actual school. And someone on Facebook had asked about the painting by P. Buckley Moss. She uses Locust Grove as the school house model there. So we've got a little bit more from our archives about it. We've got a picture of a class. This is the interior of the one at Carillon Park. If you go in there, my kids like to go there and sit at the desks there, and they always have they always change the year that it's based on in the room. And these pictures here show when it was being moved and constructed there at Carillon Park. So that's a pretty neat thing to have, and to know, and when you see it there, to know that it came from Clark County.
Our Mastodon's in Columbus and our schoolhouse is in Dayton.
Our schoolhouse is in Dayton. Does anyone know what this school might be? This was a really interesting one when we first shared this on Facebook. We got a whole bunch of information about still standing one-room schoolhouses that we didn't know about, because people were guessing what that was. And when we posted this, because we had that very vague map, we weren't entirely sure where this school was located. We know that it's called Benson School. It's another one in Springfield Township, and it was number 6 of the 13 schools. And it was originally built in 1850. And it's after we posted it on Facebook, we got about a half a dozen guesses that we thought might possibly help us find out more. So we did a lot of, I did some research on Google Maps to try and line them up. And one of the guesses that someone had was how it help us confirm where the original location was. It was at, it's still standing, but it's an expanded, and it's a private home now on at the intersection of Tuttle and Old Columbus. So we've got we've got a couple more pictures here that shows how it expanded. So this is more what it looks like now. The house that's there, it's expanded even more. But we've got some other stuff from our archives. There's a 1910 Springfield Township report that was put out about all the schools, and it would explain to you who the educators were at the school, what classes they offered, and things like that, how many students they had. And this is some stuff from that report that includes an actual interior picture of Locust Grove, so you can see how they based their recreation at Carillon Park on that. And we assume that a lot of the one-room schoolhouses in the world, in the area, would have looked very much the same. But this the report also, this is from another report from 1903, 1904, when A.B. Graham was the superintendent. And if you are a 4-H'er, you know the name A.B. Graham. He founded 4-H here in Clark County in 1902, and he's here in the center of this picture, surrounded by the teachers that were in Springfield Township in 1903, 1904. And another picture we have from that time period is of the Ohio Traveling Library, which was a statewide library that made loan services available to the schools. So the township schools had these boxes of books that traveled to the schools in the district throughout the year. And when A.B. Graham was superintendent, that was something that they brought here, was the traveling library. And then this is a great picture down here of the school transportation that was out in the township. This one, horse-drawn transportation, would have serviced Reed, and the other school was called Mill Creek at the time.
What school did A.B. Graham teach at?
He actually taught, I'm not sure about if he taught here in the county. I know that he originally was a teacher in Urbana, so this is some more we have on A.B. Graham. We have a really great collection of his personal collection. We have a lot of diaries of his around from the time when he was superintendent. So this is some excerpts from the diary, and here's a picture of him with some students We have quite a few pictures of him with students that were in 4-H. It wasn't called 4-H right away, but we've got this great, I like this little end of the year. He's got this next year, and it's little things to think about. And I like this one. It says, "Speak respectful of your predecessor. You may be one next year." That's one of my favorites. And be contented, patient. You have in many ways the best people to work for. I thought that was really, really sweet. Talking about, you know, his students and the educators that he worked with. And then we've got, this is one's from 1897, but we also, his 1902 diary does talk about the first meeting where they ended up forming 4-H. So those are really neat things to have. How about, we've got another picture here. Does anyone have any idea what school this is or where it was? This one is actually after a major disaster in town. This is the bridge that goes down East High Street. If you're familiar with where Leanne's Dairy Delight is now, it's right across the street from there, where Penn Street comes up the steep hill there. There was a school that stood on that corner, or stood on the edge there, Eastern School. And in May of 1886, there was a massive downpour in the evening, and the waters ended up flooding the streets because there was a drainage sewer on York Street that burst, and the water surged more, and then it caused the bridge to collapse. And the bridge was right next to the schoolyard for Eastern School. So they immediately closed the school, didn't have kids come in, and they shut it down, and they had some emergency meetings with the school board and consulted with the local architects, including Charles Krieger, who had designed St. Ray's and our building, the City Hall and Marketplace. And they determined that they needed to abandon the building. Just a few days later, they voted on May 15th to forever abandon the building, and they redistributed the students throughout the city to different schools. And then they just left it there. And then they built another school, another Eastern school further up on the south side of East High, where which later became McKinley. And I think, isn't that where there's still the McKinley, the center there?
McKinley Hall.
McKinley Hall.
Rehabilitation.
Yeah. So that's where they rebuilt Eastern, and then it later became McKinley. And then we never did find out exactly when they finally tore the building down. We know that it sat for a while, but we do know that by the city's centennial in 1901, they had built this down in the corner, a replica of the James DeMint cabin. And they had that on display out at the fairgrounds for a while. And then after it was done, after the centennial celebrations were done out at the fairgrounds, they dismantled it and rebuilt it over on East High Street in the same location where Eastern School had been. So this picture up in the corner kind of gives you a overview of, or a better view of where you would have been. So you're seeing the tracks down here and the tracks up here of the, and then this would be East High going across here. And so this would be right across the tracks, I think, would be about where Leanne's Dairy Delight is now. And then there's the now a staffing building that used to be a funeral home on the other side. Does anyone have any idea what this one is? Or when?
World War I.
No.
This is World War II. This is, well, just prior to, I guess, well, just at the beginning. So this is Blair Hall, and forgive me, I'm not entirely sure. Is that one still standing at Wittenberg?
Yes,
That is, okay.
it is.
So this is students from Blair School that were doing a book drive at Blair Hall, and that's where at the time it housed the Department of Education, and there was a Blair model school that where students went, and this was a project that helped with Wittenberg's teacher training program. And so the model school was connected with Springfield Public Schools, and it was allowed for observation and teaching opportunities for their future teachers that were going through Wittenberg. And that was the popular model at the time, to have them at colleges. And it had kindergarten through 4th grade, and it was open until the start of World War II, and then they shut the building down because it was used for Army Air Force training school. And Jonathan Winters actually trained there at Wittenberg in that program. And
my dad was in charge of that training, of the dining halls and the buildings for that training course. And Gordon McRae was there at one point as.
We have another slide that shows some more. That's really neat.
Yeah.
There was one of our, I think Barbara Barth had mentioned that she was in this picture and had gone to the school, but I can't remember who she was in the picture. We've got a few more here from the archives showing that. I love this little 1941 graduates picture, and then we've got pictures of the cadets from the training school. Oh, and I guess, yeah, here, this is a modern picture of the school. I forgot, it is, I'm not that familiar with Wittenberg's campus myself, but that shows the doors now. And we've got it was dedicated in 1927. We have the dedication program there. This picture, if you've been to the Heritage Center, this one is one of the blown up pictures in the hall upstairs, our rotating gallery. Okay, does anyone recognize this?
At the high school library?
Yes. So this picture we think is from the mid 60s to early 70s, so it would have been south at the time, but same as Springfield High. Barbara, I think this is one that you probably scanned. Well, you did all the school pictures, but this was one that we couldn't quite line them up. But we went through some of the yearbooks in our collection to try and, because we could tell that a lot of the pictures had been taken for use in the yearbook. So we went through some yearbooks to try and match some of them up, and that's how we were able to identify the school's librarians up here, showing with some books. They were
the wife of a faculty member. What was her name?
Martha Hahn. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Or Marty Hahn, and then the guy is J. Walker Thomas. But we found that exact picture in the 1965 yearbook, so that's why we figured out our dates a little bit on the pictures that we had. And we knew they had been cut as if they had been used in the yearbook, but some of them it looks like they didn't get used. But this is from one of the yearbooks from that era. Has a great aerial view of the downtown, and included a few of the ads here that were in there, and one of the spreads about fads from the time from the early 70s.
The arcade building is still there. That wasn't there in the 70s.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
The arcade building came down
in the 80s.
86.
Like, yeah.
Virginia, was it 86?
Oh, it didn't come down till the 80s?
Yeah, it was sometime in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I can't remember. I don't have the date on this as to what year this yearbook was from, but let's see. We've got.
Although the Big Four station is still there.
Yeah. So it's at least, I think this is probably like 64 or 65.
Yeah, because I think the Big Four came down in 68, 69, wasn't it?
Yeah, 69.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's another school picture. City one.
Northern?
No. It's a direction though.
Western? Is that Western?
Yeah, that's Western. Is that Virginia?
Yes,
I remember you telling us that you went there. So
yes, I did. I did.
were you there when the fire happened?
No, I don't know, it was maybe, what year was it?
It was 54.
Okay, I was in junior high by that point. So, yeah.
So we've got a picture here from the fire was in 54, and it was right after they'd returned from Christmas break. So the teachers managed to get all the students out safely, and it was mostly smoke damage. But since it was right after Christmas break, a lot of the students had brought in their Christmas gifts to show. So they were, and it says that everything was okay, but they were finally able to go back in and distribute everything and try and figure out what belonged to who after that. But it was on West Main. So I think this is about across the street from where the Salvation Army building is now, around that block. And we've got an interior photo from about 1900 here, and then a picture of one of the classes out. Okay. Does anyone know what this is?
I have no personal experience of it.
That's Board of Education.
Yes. This one is from our collection, and actually it comes from Schaefer Junior High, and it was donated by, you can see the name here, Don Glendinen, I think is the name. And the story was that his friends of his found it at a garage sale and recognized his name on it and bought it for him. So you got the privilege of writing your name on there if you had the paddle used. So
Is it Don Glendenin?
yes.
He's was a dentist in Northridge then.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, he became the dentist in Northridge.
Well, I guess
Principal drilled him with that board.
they must have shaped him up.
Whoever used it better not need a cavity filled.
Well, they said the story that Tom Stafford had done about it when he donated it. He said that the paddles were made at the wood shop at Springfield High. So, and at the time, Don had looked at the rest of the names on there and figured that it must have been from about 45 to 50 from the names that he recognized on there. We've got another picture here that has this was the principal who would have been the wielder of the paddle here. Principal Mosier up in the corner here. And we've got some pictures of Schaefer. It was opened in 22. But down here are two of our volunteers, Ruth and Marguerite. They went to Schaefer, and of course, they don't know anything about the paddle. It wasn't part of their school memories, but they did look through to see if they recognized any names, and they could confirm that it was the year that it probably was, because they didn't recognize any of the names. It was just after their time.
On the left is Don Glendenin. Middle
But
picture.
yeah, here,
left-hand
yeah,
side.
there he is. This is from the story that Tom Stafford did about the paddle. And we've got this is a picture from Charlie Thomas, who did who was a photographer. We have a lot of school photos from him, but this is one of the pictures from Schaefer there. And then we've got a few more. This is from an exhibit that we did in 2008, where we recreated different eras of classrooms, and we had the paddle there hanging on display in the exhibit.
I looked up the arcade. It was demolished in 1988.
88.
Oh.
Much
Thank you.
Terrible thing.
Let's see. Okay. Does anyone
Oh, wow.
know this one?
Jefferson.
Building.
No. I tried
Looks
to
like
find a
Elmwood.
picture.
That's on McCrite, isn't it?
No. It's not Jefferson.
Okay.
I couldn't find a picture of Jefferson in our collection.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, Barbara. I looked.
Is that the one that was over like on Elmwood?
No.
Is that-
This one is actually still standing. It's, and I didn't know that until I submitted
That's
this one to the paper. It's Fulton.
That's right.
And I did not realize it was still there until they submitted they took the now picture, and I realized I just didn't recognize it because it looks so different. But you can see that it is still the same building, but it's missing a lot of the pieces. But it opened in 1884, and it was originally called Dibert Avenue School, named after the street that it's on, Dibert. And it was renamed Fulton after a former teacher and principal at Western School, who was also the first principal of Springfield High School, John Fulton. And he had been very instrumental in the establishment of the city's public schools, and he was an advocate of school integration, which is why the story of Fulton is kind of ironic, because there was protests in the 1920s when they tried to segregate the school officially. In 1922, the superintendent at the time, his name was George McCord, he devised a plan to choose Fulton as the segregated school, and proposed it. And there was members of the Black community that supported the plan, but then there was also 1,000 signatures that the local NAACP gathered that were against the plan, saying that it was unconstitutional. And they had there were protests at the end of 1922, and they showed up at the school and were tried to block students from entering. And then McCord tried to prosecute parents for truancy, and the parents said, well, our students couldn't get in the building. And then when we tried to send them to other schools, they wouldn't let them enroll at the other schools either. So a couple months later, in January, the local judge ruled that they had imposed illegal segregation, and that they could either close the school and redistribute the children until the next year, or give the children the choice of going wherever they wanted. So they decided to just give them the choice of going where they wanted. And then 3 weeks after that, was when they had there was a raid on the KKK headquarters that was led by the local police chief, and they released and printed in the newspaper the names of all of the members, local members on the rolls, and the superintendent was on the list.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, he did later lose his job, not for that reason, for other things he was doing that were not above board. But before he left, he fired all of the Black teachers at Fulton, and it was 20 years until the 40s that there was any more Black teachers at all in the district.
Where was the Klan Clubhouse, for use of a better word? I mean, where was it in town? Was there a building that they had?
I don't remember offhand.
It was an office.
Was it?
It was somewhere downtown, I'm fairly certain.
I think that we have that information.
Yeah, it's in the newspaper.
In the newspaper, but yeah, I can't remember offhand where that was. And then this picture, this woman here, Hattie Mosley, the sketches by David Catra from the, oh, sorry, I just jumped back. She was instrumental in leading the protests, one of the people in town. I'm sorry, that's why her picture is included there. So the original Fulton School is still standing, and then this is the one that opened in '50, and then the building that's there now was built in the later 2000s, the current Fulton.
Where did all those children go to school before they integrated? All the Black children there, where did they go to school?
I think that the problem in the 20s was that they wanted to make sure that they all went to the one school. And I think that based on the layout of the community, they did mostly go there. And that's probably why they had decided that we'll just make we'll make it a segregated school.
Okay, so that was their school. And so then they brought in the white children? Is that how that worked?
No, well, I say it still remained a very segregated school, just by de facto segregation for many, many years to come. But it also reflected the makeup of the south side of town. Here's another school here.
Oh,
Reed,
Outstanding, yeah.
Either Reed or Possum, right?
awesome school.
Reed or Possum, which one?
Yeah, it could be either Reed or Possum, but yeah, it's Reed. This was from 1938 when they were doing an addition on the school. And when we first shared this one on Facebook, it went back and forth for weeks. People arguing whether it was Reed or Possum. And I still occasionally will get comments on that photo of people saying it's Reed or Possum, even though we've identified that it is definitely Reed. But this was on the one that's out there on just before Bird Road when you're heading out towards the fairgrounds on East High.
By the root beer stand.
Yeah, but right before you get to Frost Stop. Yeah, so this was the expansion and remodel was in 1938, and it was a WPA project. And they look very similar because they were both built at the same time. The Reed opened in 22, and I think Possum opened, or Reed opened in 21. I think Possum opened in 22.
Yeah, they're all going to come down at the same time.
Are they part of the ones that are coming down now? I mean, going to be coming down in the next.
Reed, Rockaway, and Possum are all going to end up out at Sean Eno.
Yeah.
Cool.
I went to Possum. My mother went to Rockaway when she was a girl.
Yeah, and we've got. You could. Oh, sorry, jumped ahead. I need to stop touching it. Okay, so I have a remote. I need to just touch the remote. The Possum, you can see the one below it, how similar they are. Almost exactly the same layout. And they were both remodeled at the same time too. You can see that this one was done in Possum. The picture we have is from September of '38. So they were working on both of them at the same time.
I went to Rockaway. We definitely had the classiest looking building.
I went there too.
We got no proof here, though.
And it's still they're all still standing and still in use. Are they the only schools in the county that are still?
They're still schools?
That are still schools? I think, I mean, that haven't been rebuilt. I think they may be.
Northeastern and hasn't been replaced yet.
But it's not quite as old, right?
True.
No,
but
it's
Rockaway
not.
got burned at one point, didn't it?
It did, and Rockaway was complete. I didn't do any Rockaway pictures in here, but we do have pictures of Rockaway. I'm sorry we didn't include Rockaway, but we do have pictures of Rockaway, including before and after the fire.
There's a school in Enon, right in town in Enon. I'm not sure how old it is, but it's fairly old.
And it's still in use?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know, it is.
I say there
a couple years ago.
There are so many one-room schoolhouses and old school buildings in town that I'm amazed when I find out that they are still standing or in uses for other things.
When my mom went to Rockaway, there were 2 grades to a room. It was first and second and third and fourth and so on.
We had that at St. Joe's.
Yeah.
During the baby boom. But my mother went to Crossroads. Do you have any pictures of Crossroads?
Oh, I forgot. Crossroads that's T-Berry's now, right? Isn't it? Okay. I don't have any pictures of that.
Oh, I've got one. I'll get you one.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
It's probably in that map photo, but I don't know if we have any other pictures of it. So this one was mentioned earlier. Does anyone recognize?
Olive Branch.
Yeah.
Oh.
Had a problem when they told you to stand in the corner at that school.
Just wandered around, didn't you?
Yeah.
So this
are they finished with it, remodeling it?
I don't think they're doing.
not
Are
yet.
they doing anything to it? They are working on it right now.
I don't think so. I think it's
just storage, I think.
I know that it was
education out there.
It was added to the National Register not about 10 years ago.
It's a beautiful building.
And I believe it was 1908 was when it was first used, and it was used until about 1920s, late 1920s, and then they built the other school on the adjacent to that, and that's where Tecumseh is now. So it sits right in front of Tecumseh High School.
Yeah.
Right.
Down there
I have
on
a
the
question.
certificate of promotion where it's signed by C.S. Ryan, Superintendent of Schools. That's my grandpa.
Oh, no way.
Ooh.
The
I have
really neat.
Natalie, maybe someone knows. My sister was in the first graduating class at Shawnee in 1959, but before that, she attended Rockaway, and then she went to Tecumseh.
Mhm.
So where did the kids from Reed and Possum go to high school before Shawnee came into existence?
Did they go to Olive Branch?
The
That's
Rockaway kids did. I think Possum might have gone to Green, and I know some of the kids that I went to school with at Possum, her older brothers had gone to Greenon, and she lived on
That'd be
Central
true.
Pike.
Would that be true of the Reed kids too then?
The Reed kids went to Northeastern
Northeastern, probably.
when it opened.
Yeah.
when did Northeastern open?
55.
53 was
Okay.
the first graduating
So I'm-
class.
Was it? Okay.
So I wonder if, like,
Dan
so this,
Clinic and some of the people that I know went there to Northeastern before Shawnee opened, even though they lived in what is now Shawnee District.
Yeah.
well, this is an early graduation photo up here, the 1927 one. So I'm wondering if those didn't open until the 50s, if it was Olive Branch was the high school that they filtered into.
Olive Branch was the high school. It sits right now, right beside Tecumseh High School.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I don't
but
know when Tecumseh was built.
I'm not entirely sure about that. I know that because it said, I had looked it up. 1928 was the last time they used this building, but then there was a new building built that was called Olive Branch that was used until the 50s.
And that's the one my mom graduated from in 37.
Okay. So that building's gone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that one's completely
Yeah, they
gone.
tore it down.
So, and I know his name just escapes me, with the New Carlisle Historical Society, Bill Berry. He has been very instrumental in getting the Olive Branch building, original one, protected and getting that on the National Register. Okay, we've got another school here. Does anyone know this one?
Oh.
The Roosevelt?
No.
To the back of the high school?
No.
It's got a dome, is it? No.
No, it's the tree.
That's a tree branch.
Yeah. I thought the same thing.
This one had a couple names. This is McGuffey, but it was originally called Northern Heights, and it's that open lot across from the current Laganda Elementary, and it was originally the county infirmary, and it was built in the 1830s, and then in 1916 was when they remodeled it and opened it as Northern Heights. And from what I read, the reason that they changed the name was because there was a northern school, and it ended up being, so it's named after McGuffey is after William Holmes McGuffey, of the McGuffey Readers.
So where was Northern School?
That was the old Springfield Board of Education building down there on College Avenue.
Yes, that one's actually coming up in another slide.
We knew that.
So yeah, this is the lot, which still looks pretty much exactly the same now. It was torn down in 82, I think. So this was 92, the lot photo here. It's still an open lot. We've got some class photos here. And then here we go. This is Northern on College Avenue. And this is where they have there's a marker there for James DeMint, because when he settled, that was originally where his cabin was the site of where Northern School later was.
The biggest cabin I've ever seen.
Lots of bedrooms.
That'd be pretty impressive. But yeah, now this is where it was torn down in the 70s, late 70s, I think, and now it's administrative maintenance buildings, I think, for Wittenberg, or over on that side of the street. We've got this great class photo here of students from Northern.
Now that shows integration.
It does.
So where was Fulton at that point?
Well, this picture It's from around between 1900 and 1910. We don't have a date exactly on this one.
Oh, yeah, it was in the 20s when they.
But I also think, I mean, I don't know for sure, but complete segregation there was not the proper transportation if students did live up on the north side of town to get them all the way over to the south side of town.
Yeah.
Virginia, I don't know if you, or Casey, if you can, so I mean, in the early years at least, it wouldn't have been possible just because the how far away things were across town with transportation. The students would have gone by the school that they lived closest to. How about this one?
Original Ridgewood?
Yeah.
Ridgewood, yeah.
It is the original Ridgewood.
Yeah.
So there was an original Ridgewood, from what I understand. That one was built in 1917, and that was on North Limestone in a different spot. This was at Harding and Hawthorne, and I think this building still stands.
Yeah.
It's a private home, right?
Doctor's office.
It's an office. Okay. And it was donated by Harry Kissel's real estate company when they were developing Ridgewood.
I went to half-day kindergarten there.
That's cool.
Half days schedule.
When
They're
did
doing it good.
the current Ridgewood, was that built in the 60s?
Probably.
think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was about right.
Another one here. It's over on the right.
You St. Ray's.
St. Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
After it was the post office.
Yes. So it was the post office until 1932 was when the current post office opened, and then they sold it to St. Ray's, and they renovated it and opened it for grades 1 through 8. From, I think they were there till the 50s. I remember one of our volunteers, Pat, she went there.
And when they built the new Catholic Central,
Mm-hmm.
which I think the first graduating class was 1960, was the first class that went all 4 years there, I believe.
59.
That's when they moved. That's when they moved over to there. St.
Speaking
Rachel.
of which, yeah. So the original Catholic Central, Sean, was it in the same spot as the current one?
That is the building.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is this building.
No.
This building here.
No.
Okay.
This building on the upper left is where it still stands.
Oh, right. It's on the other side of the street, though.
Correct.
Isn't it?
But that was the original Catholic Central.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
There's sink, whatever.
So that's still used for Catholic Central.
It's used. I think it's like a
It's a parish building.
parish.
Oh yeah,
center.
for Sunday school and all.
Right.
And okay, that's right.
And where the existing current Catholic Central stands, that land was donated by Patrick Shovelin, old P.J. Shovelin of Bauer Brothers fame and so forth. That's where his house was. And he donated that land, or his estate. I'm not exactly sure who it was, but that's where it stood, right across from of course, the Kroll Mansion.
Yeah, I did not know that. I wonder if we have pictures of the Shovelin home. I don't know if we do. I didn't realize that was what was there before Catholic Central.
Right.
Well, so yeah, that was, I think 58 was when they stopped having classes in St. Ray's and and then they moved down to Catholic Central. So it must have opened around 58 or opened in 59 if the first class was 60. But yeah, St. Ray's, that we know that was torn, the original post office, later St. Ray's was torn down for the overpass. And then this building here across the street would have gone out too.
Right.
Then that's the Lagonda Club.
Lagonda Club, yeah.
Over here, yeah.
Yeah.
In the front lawn of the library.
Yeah. And actually, the front lawn of the library, is that statue there?
The fountains there, or the statue.
Yeah. I wish we could blow that picture up and see that better. I've seen good pictures of the statue that stood in front of the library, but we don't have any in the archives that are really great of that statue. Okay. Oh, I didn't even cut the name off of this one. Barbara, this one's for you. You mentioned you went to Roosevelt. So, that was where that was standing just until recently.
Yeah.
The last like 10, 15 years. Because when I moved to town, it was still there.
Sure.
Jefferson was still there when I moved to town. Those have both come down in the last less than 15 years. So I didn't look up too much about Roosevelt. So does anyone have anything about Roosevelt to share? That's still a current school, but it's different location now.
Not too long ago, I came across a photo of a toll house that apparently was on just about that same spot.
Yeah,
it was 68 at Roosevelt.
I think that was Toll House 17. Oh, Barbara, I need to find that picture. That's our. I'm giving it away now, but that's our "Where Is It" for our Facebook page today. Is connected. I mean, it was a "Who Is It," but it's connected to that toll house. I didn't know we had a picture of it.
Yeah.
So, let's see what we have next. Oh, next I have. Is Ed still on the call here?
I'm here.
Yeah, Ed, these are all the yearbooks that Ed donated a few years ago. So this is the part where we say we only have yearbooks if people give us their yearbooks. we do have a very large yearbook collection, but so here's some that we got recently from that were from Springfield High School, and Ed gave a whole bunch from Northeastern. And then I wanted to include a list here of these are what we have as of yesterday to cover the different parts of the county. So you can see there's a huge gap for Catholic Central. There's a huge gap for the high school, Springfield North and South, after a certain time period. Like for North, we have virtually no yearbooks for them. And then we have some Wittenberg ones and other ones throughout the county. But
Ellie, I thought I gave you a couple more for Shawnee at 71 and 72.
I may just need to update the list then. I'm sorry, Patty.
They're not in the collection yet.
Oh, if you gave them really recently, maybe I didn't realize. Yeah, I do know I had some of the ones you gave us.
Natalie?
Yeah.
They can be purchased at North High School. Did you know that? They have
well, that may be something that, well, I have been trying to work out to get some of their duplicates from them, from the both of the high schools to kind of fill in our gaps. But we do know when researchers come in, someday when we're back open and we do have researchers in, we know that we can send them to the library because the library has almost a full run when the library's open again, when people can go there. But we know that we can at least point people in the right direction to find the yearbooks that they're looking for if we don't have what they're looking for. But it is nice to have them, especially to put together things like this when we can go through school photos and things like that. But Barbara Matthews on the call, she's went through all our entire school collection and scanned just about everything we have, which is how we got a lot of the pictures that are here.
Natalie?
Yeah.
74 Shawnee are coming your way.
All right. Hear that, Virginia? Well, we'll let you know when we're back open and taking things. But we are taking things out by an appointment basis right now, because we're for the most part not in the building. So, I think this might be one of the last slides here. We've got some fun back to school ads. These are from 1951. We've got some of the back to school savings that people had. Where did you do you guys remember where you went for your back to school shopping in town?
Friends, Boston Store, Pennies.
My older brothers.
Best place to go.
We had uniforms. We didn't have to shop.
That makes it a little easy. But, Oh, I think I've got one more. Oh, this was another one of our exhibit in 2008 where we did the schools. So we got to pull out all of our fun things that from the collection like this. We have this great map case that has these relief maps in it that pulled out for our around the turn of the century and in our desks here with the inkwells. And
We still had those when I was at Jefferson.
yeah, really.
Yeah, had them too.
I also
Had those at St. Bernard's up until my 7th grade year.
Yeah, we got them all the way through.
Did they look really old?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, on runners.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
on runners. All the desks were attached.
They were on runners, that's right.
And so, and then we've got our 50s era classroom. We have some cubbies and
Shelter.
we have, I can't remember which school the PA, the announcement thing is from, but we have that and our bomb shelter signs.
Oh gosh, yeah.
These were,
And your music chalk, isn't that for our music?
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
from music roll.
So it was a good opportunity to showcase all of the things we had in the collection were education related. We have a lot of
school desks.
Yeah, we have a lot of old textbooks too from different eras. Those are pretty neat to pull out. We have
the clocks on the walls that never worked.
Did you know that
you got an old computer down there?
Did you know
the picture on the right? I say there's an old computer down there.
I think what was this? I think
That's a projector.
Is that a projector?
I'm talking about the abacus.
Oh, the abacus.
Oh yeah.
Could be a portable typewriter.
Oh, first calculator.
Is that the paddle hanging beside
It is.
the?
That's the Schaefer paddle there.
Good eye.
I can tell you a paddling story if you want. It's like Mr. Gossard, who was the principal at Rockaway when I was there, the 6th graders, you weren't allowed off school property, but the junior high kids were all in the same building with us. And we got in an epic snowball battle with them. And the entire 6th grade boys, I think all of us, ran into the woods off of school property.
Uh-oh.
And after lunch was over, all the boys in the 6th grade, there were two classrooms actually, were called to the principal's office and introduced to the Board of Education. Paddled every one of us, and I got to go second. And unfortunately, there was a kid in front of me, I still remember his name, Mike Dillon. And it was the words that went with the paddle were bend over and grab your ankles.
Oh no.
and cough.
Mike did, and he was facing the crowd, and Mr. Gossard gave him a whack, and Mike got the goofiest look on his face. I laughed. Was that you're next? And I got an extra. You still feel like laughing? No, sir.
Barbara has a note here about the school desks. She says the small desks were in the front and the large ones were in the back. And she always had to sit in the back row, and for that reason had to get glasses in the 5th grade to see the blackboard.
Still got them.
That's how I found out I needed glasses. Was suddenly I wasn't in the back row, but suddenly I couldn't read the board. So we got a couple other. Jen Young says her mother-in-law went to Springfield High, but she would have gone to Greenon High School from Possum. I didn't know if that was a thread from a conversation that I missed. And Barbara was asking about the interior of the Locust Grove School. The interior shot of the Locust Grove Schoolhouse that you used, was that from Carillon Park?
I think it was from a booklet from Carillon Park about it. I mean, about the history of the school. Because, yeah, I don't think we have the photo of that. I think that was a booklet picture.
For a one-room schoolhouse, that looks as large as the photo of another classroom we saw in a school building. It looked too big for Locust.
I mean,
but they were both one room.
I say it seems to line up pretty well with how the building actually looks today, having been in it recently. But I don't know. So,
Do you have information on the one-room schoolhouse that the kids still visit today for field trips?
the one in New Carlisle area.
I'm not sure where it is. Do you know?
The advanced, I think it's the advanced school, I think it's called. I don't have any information about it. I know that they do, I mean, there at the school, they would have information about what school that
Do you know,
was.
Steve, where they go? They go on a field trip every year.
Yeah, I just heard it referred to as the one-room schoolhouse.
I do think it's out
And
there
the,
around.
what is that the one that the Clark County retired teachers work
Yes.
on?
Yeah, I think it's the advanced school. It's out on New Carlisle Pike, yeah.
Oh,
On the-
okay.
on the left.
You didn't have any pictures of that. I've never been there, is why I asked.
I don't think we have any pictures of it, but I'm not entirely sure. Want to have to look into more.
There's a building up on 68 that used to be called Westside School, connected to the Northeastern District. My dad was born in 1907. He went to school there. And when my children were in kindergarten, that was where they went to school. And I always thought that was so ironic. They went to school where my father had gone to school as a child. And it's still there. It's like a office building or something now, I think. It's just before you get to the IH Credit Union, I believe, or it might be right next to it. But it is still standing, so it's an old school.
I know there's one out on 68 across from, it was a what's it called? It was a car dealership for a while. I think maybe it's Moorfield School. I don't know. It's on the other side. It's a.
It's on
I
the
think
east
you're talking
side.
about the same building.
Is it the same building?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah.
Moorfield was in New Moorfield itself, and my dad went to school there too when he was older. And that was where he finished up I guess 8th grade was as far as he went. But it's not standing anymore. They tore it down a long time ago.
It'd be interesting to make a list of still standing buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that'd be a volunteer project. Anybody on here on the call who's a Heritage Center volunteer, we'll stick you on that.
Well, it's heartening how many are still standing and being used for one purpose or another.
Yeah. I see Dan's on the call. The building there that was not later the sporting goods, that was originally a school. Wasn't it the Warders School out there on East Main Street for the tracks? That was one of a very, very early school, 1830s, and that one's still standing.
Wow.
Didn't really
Natalie,
have.
you know I live in a one-room.
Oh yeah. Do you have a picture? You'll have to share it.
I'll see if I can get. I'd have to pull it off the wall, but it's Champaign County, not Clark County.
Still very cool.
Didn't have anything on Northwestern either.
Good baby.
Yeah.
Well, I say, and that may be either we don't have as much. I know that as far as yearbooks go, we don't have a lot, but yeah, there are some areas where we just don't have as much
You got
given to us.
Lawrenceville.
So, yeah, Lawrenceville, there's not a whole lot. They have a tiny folder in the archives there, but not a whole lot of information. But for the most part, the school, the archives in general, we have what. Oh, there's Anna's one room.
A little dusty.
So was it modified a lot?
Actually, the people that we bought it from had passed, but they were teachers, and they had bought this house, and they did have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and a kitchen and a living room, and then we added a 2nd story to it.
Yeah. What school was that?
That's neat. I didn't know that.
There are quite a few in the county that are private homes now. So
Natalie, I don't know if this will show up or not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what do we have there?
That is the existing St. Bernard School building under construction in 1914.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Wow.
That's
That's
an amazing picture.
you know, and I'm sorry, Sean, I did mean to include St. Bernard's because I know
Oh,
that
that's
we
okay. No,
I
no,
know,
I'm just saying.
I mean, because I know we recently had a donation of the picture of the completed school.
Yeah.
And it says 1914 on above it.
Yeah, well, this is it under construction, so.
But interior photos would be nice of that too. Yeah. Well, does anyone have anything else that they want to add, or we've got?
Rayanne just asked a question.
Oh yeah.
Do we have anything on the Terrell Hut School at the Heritage Center? I think it's near Fremont City, but technically Champaign County. Her great-grandma, born in 1908, went there as a child and recently found a picture of her class outside the building.
I think we might actually have a Terra Hut in our other schools. We have a few from outside the county. I think there might be a Terra Hut one in there. I'll have to check and see what it is. I can let you know, Rayanne. But yeah, we've tried to get a lot of those scanned, and there's a lot of building photos and class photos. A lot of them are very, very old, which would be beyond most people's memories. But the one we were able to share in the paper the other day, they were all identified in the picture, but it wasn't identified as to who the names went with in the picture. So baby steps. We have some information,
Yes.
but it doesn't tell you who the people are. We have a few pictures like that where it'll list everybody on the back as to who's in the picture, but we don't know who's who. So well, I thank you guys for joining us tonight. If you guys have any other ideas for what you might like to see in the future for programs like this, we have lots of topics that we could possibly do, but we need you guys to help with the memories and information too. If you've got ideas, we're happy to have them.
Think about those times at family gatherings where you've gotten to reminiscing and started talking, and then at some point realized that maybe you were talking longer than the people that were actually with you wanted to listen. Bring that sort of reminiscence here. Remember whatever that story was, and see if we can't structure a program around that topic. So, because we want that story and we want it recorded. So
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you
Yes,
for
good.
joining us.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye. You guys have a good night.
Thanks.
You.